I don't think you're a fool. If you put stuff out there that's just a lie and take it as gospel and won't listen to the truth, you, my friend, fools. But all of you, dear listeners, you, like me, live a charmed life. Granted, some live a life more charmed than others. That's true, okay? But especially, you live a charmed life if you live in the United States. A site in India that I'm now involved in called JioSaavn. And apparently folks in India look at the podcast and they like it. So I will even include you, my dear Indian listeners, in this equation. If you live in India, you live a charmed life. Now, if you're begging in the streets of New Delhi and you have leprosy, no, you don't live a charmed life at all. But if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably part of the Indian middle class, and you too live a charmed life. And here's why I say that, okay? Because you don't live in China. You don't live in Russia. You do not live in Belarus. And I use those three countries. Why would you put Belarus in there? Because a recent Facebook posting that drew almost no attention from anybody. Nobody cared 3 shakes about this post. But it had to do with the Belarus election, the recent election in Belarus, where the very unpopular president won 80% of the vote. And his opponent had to leave the country in fear of her life. Okay. China, Russia, Belarus, those countries, nobody lives a charmed life there because they have almost no freedom. Example, in Russia, Putin is in charge, and he will be in charge until the day he dies, just like Joseph Stalin. Well, why don't people oppose him? Because Russia has a free electoral system, right? No. All of Putin's others want to be. They don't want to be in prison. They don't want to be dead, so they don't oppose him. In China, Xi is in charge until the day he dies, just like Mao. And in another Facebook post that I put on there that almost nobody cared about, okay, there's a gentleman there. His name is Peng Zhufeng, okay? I'm sorry, Pen Zhufeng. And he was the head of a Chinese state-owned infrastructure and transportation country. And he left China because there were corruption charges against him. Now, in China, a corruption charge, that means you're a dissident. That means you disagree. That means you've spoken out against the party. So they're not going to arrest you for, well, you spoke out against the party, so we're going to arrest you. It's not how it works there. Why? You stole money from the people. And we know the whole country is the people because that's how communism works. Since you're stealing from the people, we're going to throw you in prison. Well, Peng Zhufeng left, okay? He left and came to the United States. Funny how they all come here, okay? But in China, they tried to threaten to put his toddler son, who was left in the care of his parents, the child's grandparents, up for adoption. Now think about that. What if you spoke out against the United States government? They wanted to throw you in prison. So you left the country to avoid being thrown. My friends, is what happens in China. And we cry about our government suggesting that we wear a mask in public. Why? Our authoritarian government, we're no better than China. Please, stop it. Stop it. Nobody throws you in jail for wearing, but nobody is going to throw you into prison. And if you leave, arrest all your family and put your children up for adoption. That's not going to happen. So please don't compare this country to China. Do not do it. It's disingenuous. It's a lie. Belarus. This week, a very unpopular president won the election with 80% of the vote. And it was laughable. 80% of the people didn't vote for this guy. His opponent fled to Lithuania for fear. Things don't go your way with an election. It wasn't stolen. What probably happened is more people thought the other way than you. Okay? Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. It's just a thing. Dear listeners, we have it so good in this country, in the West, in democratic societies, democratic government, that it's insane. And all we do is piss and moan and complain. Jesus Christ, what's the matter with us? This whole pandemic thing, I think, does have everybody on edge, okay? Nobody alive has experienced anything like this. Okay, maybe if you're 117 years old, you remember the Spanish flu. Okay, almost nobody. How's that, okay? One of the biggest complaints that you see, why, I lost my job due to the pandemic, and I want $600 in addition to my unemployment. And many people got that for a long time. It ended the end of July, and we're up in arms. We're gonna let these people starve to death because they don't get an extra $600 in addition to their unemployment. Let me share a fact with you, and telling you the truth. $600 a week is $31,200 a year. Did you know that if you want to earn some of the top wages in the world, in other words, if you want to be in the top 50%, 50% haves, 50% have-nots, if you want to be in the haves, you know how much money you have to earn to be in the top 50% of all wage earners in the world? You have to earn $9,734. I'm going to repeat that again. $32,000 a year puts you in the top 1% of all wage earners in the world. Now you may say, well, strong, $32,000 a year. Huh, you just said the $600 was $31,200, so you're not in the top 1%. Well, if you're getting the $600, you're also getting regular for 52 months, puts you well over $32,000 a year. You want the government to write you a check that will put you in the top 1% of wage earners worldwide for doing nothing. And this is a repressive nation? Think about that, please. Think about that statement. You're fussing because the government won't write you a check for $600 a week anymore, in addition to the unemployment that you're getting. You can sit at home and watch TV all the time, and that puts you in the top 1%, but you're being fucked by the government. Now, the reason for this factoid is not to shame or finger wag it more, because this whole thing is a clusterfuck. We've never come up with anything like this in our life, this whole pandemic thing, okay? It's never happened before. And for the government to open up the coffers and help folks out, I think is a good thing. But don't call for the dismantling of a system that puts you in the top 1% of worldwide wage earners without you ever having to go to work, without you having to lift a finger. Top 1% of worldwide wage earners without you ever having to go to work or lift a finger. That, dear listeners, is why you really have it so good. Another story I posted on Facebook that got little or no reaction. Ethiopia is going to build a dam on the Blue Nile, okay? They've been trying to do this for years, because if they build this dam on the Blue Nile, hundreds of thousands of people will now have access to water and electricity. They don't now, but they're going to have a dam, and guess what? We're going to get drinking water, and we're going to be able to turn lights. Isn't that bizarre? China and Russia are trying to influence our elections, our way of life, our whole fabric of society. Now, are they pro-Trump? Are they pro-Biden? Who knows? And actually, I don't think it really matters. I don't think they care. They just want to piss in the well. They just want to upset the apple cart. Why? Because we are their enemy. And if you're in China or Russia and speak out against Xi or Putin, you're put in jail or you're killed. That's how it works over there. Another Facebook post that I put on that got almost no reaction. China hacked into the Vatican ahead of negotiations allowing them to install bishops in China. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give a little bit of background onto that story to let you know what it's all about and how it works. And it's one of the things that the Catholic Church, in my opinion, has done that's a misstep. China, for a long time, would not allow freedom of religion, and they still don't. And imagine the bishops that they want. Now, the Catholic Church should have told them to pound sand. We're not going to let communists influence the church that was founded by Peter through Christ. But they did. That, my friends, in my opinion, was a managerial misstep, a huge one. But China hacked into their website to try to influence or find out how they were going to pick the bishops that were going to go to China. And if they pick the wrong one, it's not going to be allowed. But the church has negotiated, compromised in the past. But friends, there's no freedom in China. There's absolutely no freedom in China. I've been there. I can tell you firsthand, there is no freedom in China. There is no Google. There is no Facebook. If you go onto their state-run search engine and Google Tiananmen Square, there are no search results. It comes up empty. None. Okay? Freedom, my friends, is the great liberator. China